Daniel Carter stood before the Galactic Council and felt every eye in the chamber judging him. The massive chamber floated in orbit around Arcturus Prime, and through the transparent dome above, he could see a dozen different alien warships passing by. Each one belonged to a species that considered itself superior to humanity. The council chamber held representatives from 47 different species. Some walked on 4 legs, others floated in anti-gravity fields. A few were so large they needed special platforms to keep from crushing the floor. All of them were staring at Daniel and his companion, Commander Lisa, with barely hidden contempt. High raised one of his 4 arms. The leader stood 3 meters tall, with thick armored skin that could stop most weapons. His species had conquered 12 star systems before joining the council peacefully. "We have reviewed Earth's application for full membership," said his translator, making his voice sound like grinding metal. "The council finds your species inadequate." Daniel kept his face neutral. He had expected this. Lisa stood beside him, her military uniform crisp and perfect. She showed no emotion either, though Daniel knew she was recording everything with the hidden cameras in her uniform buttons. Senator Aura laughed. The warrior was covered in scales that could deflect energy weapons. Her people were the council's primary military force, and she made sure everyone knew it. "Inadequate is generous, High. The humans are fragile. Their bones break easily. Their skin offers no protection. They need artificial environments to survive in space." Other council members joined in the laughter. A floating bobbed in its containment field. "There are pathetically short, barely 100 cycles. How can they accumulate any real wisdom?" "Their gravity is weak," added a massive who stood on legs like tree trunks. "0.98 standard units. They evolved in comfort, not hardship." Daniel waited for the laughter to die down. "We may not be the strongest or the longest-lived," he said calmly. "But we are here. We reached the stars on our own. We built our own jump drives. We decoded your transmission protocols without help." Waved this away. "Minor achievements. Many species reached their local star systems, but look at you." He gestured at Daniel with 2 hands. "You would die in minutes on most of the atmosphere would burn your lungs. Gravity would crush you. You are weak." "We are different," Lisa said, speaking for the first time. Her voice was steady and professional. "Not weak, different." Aura's scales rippled with amusement. "Your military capabilities are especially amusing. Chemical rockets, kinetic projectiles, primitive nuclear devices. My people have been using plasma weapons for 10,000 years. We fight in atmospheres that would kill you instantly. We train from birth to be warriors." "And yet you asked us here," Daniel pointed out. "If we are so primitive, why waste your time with an evaluation?" "Protocol," said dismissively. "All species that develop jump technology must be evaluated, but the Council has decided to grant Earth-protected species status. You will be allowed to maintain your home system. Council races will not interfere with your development, but you are not ready for full membership." Daniel felt anger burning in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting emotional would only confirm their prejudices. What would make us ready? A serpentine slithered closer to the speaking platform. "Contribute something of value. Prove you are more than just another weak species that got lucky with technology." "Our scientists have made breakthrough discoveries in quantum mechanics," Daniel said. "Our medical researchers have eliminated dozens of diseases. Our engineers have developed efficient fusion reactors." "Old news," the hissed. "All council races have surpassed those achievements ago. You have nothing new to offer." Lisa caught Daniel's eye. He saw the warning there: "Do not reveal everything." They had discussed this before coming to the council. Earth had secrets, technologies and capabilities they had developed but not shared, military doctrines tested in hundreds of wars, weapons designed to fight enemies from the shadows, but revealing those secrets now would be foolish. "Then we will continue to develop," Daniel said, "until we have something you consider valuable." Aura stood from her seat. She towered over Daniel even from across the chamber. "I command the Council's military forces. I have seen your vessels, slow, weakly armed, barely shielded. If war came to your system, you would be conquered in days. Your people would become slaves or food, depending on the invader's preferences." "We would fight," Lisa said quietly. "With what?" Aura laughed. "Your soft bodies, your limited strength." She flexed her arms, and Daniel saw muscles that could crush steel. "One of my soldiers could defeat 10 of yours." "Perhaps," Lisa said, "we would still fight." Made a dismissive sound. This discussion is pointless. The decision is made. Earth will have protected status. You may maintain a single ambassador here to observe council proceedings. You may not vote. You may not propose legislation. You may not request military assistance. Is this clear? Daniel nodded slowly. Very clear, High. Good, you are dismissed. Daniel and Lisa left the chamber in silence. They walked through corridors designed for beings much larger than humans. Lisa had to help Daniel climb steps built for species with longer legs. Around them, aliens stared and whispered. Some pointed and laughed. Only when they reached their shuttle did Lisa speak. They have no idea. Daniel strapped into his seat and watched the station recede through the viewport. He could see Ara's flagship in orbit, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons. It was 3 times larger than Earth's biggest warship. No, he agreed. They really don't. Should we tell them, Lisa asked, about the defense platforms, the stealth ships, the weapons we've developed? No, Daniel pulled out his communication tablet. Let them think we're weak. Let them believe we're helpless. That might be our greatest advantage. He typed a message in Earth's military encryption. Council assessment complete. They dismissed us as weak and primitive. Protected status granted. No one suspects our true capabilities. Recommend maintaining current security protocols. Do not reveal classified technologies or military strength. Lisa read over his shoulder. General Price will be pleased. He wanted them to underestimate us. They do, Daniel said. He looked at the massive alien warships surrounding the station, beautiful and deadly. They think we're soft because we come from an easy world. They think we're weak because we're not built like warriors. They have no concept of what humanity has survived, what we've endured, what we've done to each other in our own wars. Should we be worried? Lisa asked, gesturing at the alien fleet. If they decided to conquer Earth? Daniel smiled grimly. Let them try. They would learn very quickly that there is a difference between being weak and being peaceful. Humanity chose to reach out to the stars in friendship, but we prepared for war long before we built our first starship. 3 months had passed since the Council rejected Earth's membership application. Captain Mitchell sat in the command chair of the ECS Horizon and watched the stars slide past on the... His ship was deep in uncharted space, mapping systems that the Council had never bothered to explore. Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Defense Command, his communications officer called out. It's encrypted with Alpha-level protocols. Straightened in his chair, Alpha-level meant war. Put it through to my ready room, Lieutenant, you have the bridge. Jake nodded and moved to the command chair as stepped into his private office. He sealed the door and activated the encryption system. General Price's face appeared on the screen and saw immediately that something was very wrong. Captain Mitchell, I'm authorizing Emergency Protocol 7, Price said without preamble. The Galactic Council is under attack. Felt ice form in his stomach. What force? They call themselves the Empire. They hit 3 outer council systems simultaneously 2 days ago. The council races are being slaughtered. Price's jaw tightened. They sent their best warriors. They lost 80% casualties in the first engagement. The defensive fleet was completely destroyed. How is that possible? Asked. We've seen their ships, their weapons. They're far ahead of us technologically. Technology doesn't mean much if you don't know how to use it in real combat, Price said. The council races are peaceful now. Most of them haven't fought a real war in thousands of years. They're soft. Understood immediately. Earth had only stopped fighting itself 50 years ago. Before that, humanity had spent its entire existence at war. They knew how to fight. They knew how to kill. You said Emergency Protocol 7. That means full deployment. Correct. Ambassador Carter received a message from Senator Ara an hour ago. She requested any support humanity can provide. Price's expression was grim. She was practically begging, the same woman who laughed at us 3 months ago. Does she know what we can do? No, she thinks we're sending our primitive chemical rockets and kinetic weapons. She doesn't expect much help. Price leaned closer to the camera. That's going to change. I'm sending you coordinates for the system. That's where the Council is making their stand. You'll be our advance force. What about the fleet? Admiral Torres is mobilizing as we speak. She'll arrive with the main battle group in 48 hours. But we need eyes on the situation now. I'm authorizing you to engage at your discretion. Felt his pulse quicken. Full authorization, no restrictions. None. Show them what humans can do, Captain. The transmission ended, sat in silence for a moment, processing the information. Then he stood and walked back to the bridge. Every officer turned to look at him, reading his expression. "Set course for the system, maximum speed," ordered. "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. We are going to war." Jake's eyes widened. War against who? "An enemy called They're attacking the Galactic Council. We've been ordered to provide assistance." "But sir," the tactical officer said hesitantly, "we're just one ship. What can we do against an empire?" Smiled coldly. "We're going to remind the galaxy why you don't mess with humans. Activate the weapons systems, all of them." The bridge crew exchanged glances. They all knew what all of them meant. The Horizon carried weapons that the Council had never seen. Weapons Earth had developed in secret, based on centuries of human warfare. "Charging," the weapons officer reported. "Missile tubes loaded, EMP arrays standing by, nuclear warheads armed and ready." "Good. Estimated time too." 18 hours at maximum jump speed, sir." Settled into his command chair. "Then we have 18 hours to prepare. I want every weapon system checked and double-checked. I want damage control teams ready. I want the crew briefed on what we're about to face." Dr. Sophie Graham entered the bridge from the science lab. She was the ship's, but she also served as the intelligence analyst. "Captain, I've been reviewing the data General Price sent. They are brutal. They don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They conquer or they destroy." "Tell me about their tactics." Sophie pulled up holographic displays showing attack patterns. "They use overwhelming force, swarm tactics. They sacrifice smaller ships to get close to larger vessels, then board them. Their soldiers are physically powerful, with natural armor and enhanced strength." "How do they compare to warriors?" "They are stronger and more vicious, but that's not why they're winning." Sophie changed the display to show battle footage. "The Council races fight according to rules. They follow protocols. They try to minimize casualties. They don't care about rules. They attack civilian targets. They use hostages. They fight dirty." Watch the footage. He saw warriors hesitating, following their training, trying to fight honorably. They showed no such restraint. The Council species forgot how to fight a real war. "Exactly," Sophie agreed. "They've been at peace for so long they've lost the edge. They don't understand that war isn't about honor, it's about winning." Jake spoke up from the tactical station. "Sir, we understand. Humanity never forgot. We fought wars for thousands of years. We know every dirty trick, every brutal tactic." "Yes," said quietly. "And now we're going to teach them what happens when they face a species that actually knows how to fight." The hours passed slowly. The crew prepared, reviewed battle plans, and studied the tactics. He noticed patterns in how they attacked, weaknesses they didn't know they had. When the Horizon dropped out of jump space at the edge of the system, saw hell spread across the stars. Debris fields marked where Council ships had died. Energy weapons crisscrossed space. Explosions lit the darkness like deadly fireworks. "Council forces are in full retreat," Jake reported. "I'm reading 12 capital ships and over 100 support vessels. They're pressing hard against the remaining Council fleet." "How many Council ships left?" "Maybe 20, and most are damaged." Studied the tactical display. The Council ships were fleeing in disorder, every captain trying to save their own vessel. The pursued like predators chasing wounded prey. "Open a channel to the Council flagship." A commander appeared on the screen, his armor scorched and broken. "Human vessel, you must retreat. They are too powerful. You will be destroyed." "Not today," said. "We're here to help." "One ship cannot turn this battle. Flee while you can." Cut the transmission. He looked at his bridge crew, young faces, determined eyes. They were about to be tested in a way no human had been tested in 50 years. "All weapons online." "Yes, sir, all systems green." "Good, helm, take us into the thick of it. Target the flagship." The helmsman hesitated. "Sir, that ship is 5 times our size." "I know, that's why they won't expect us to attack it." Leaned forward. "Remember, we're not Council species. We don't follow their rules. We fight to win. And we're about to show thee and the Council what happens when you underestimate humanity." The Horizon accelerated toward the fleet. Alarms screamed as enemy sensors locked on. The ships turned, surprised that a single vessel was charging directly at their formation. "They're hailing us," communications reported. "Audio only." A harsh, growling voice filled the bridge. Human vessel, you are vastly outnumbered. Surrender now and we will kill you quickly. Smiled, this is Captain Mitchell of Earth. Tell your war master that humanity doesn't surrender. We're about to give you a lesson in real warfare. He cut the transmission. Fire everything. The Horizons opened fire. Tungsten penetrators moving at a fraction of light speed punched through shields like they were paper. Missiles streaked across space, each one carrying a nuclear warhead. EMP arrays sent electromagnetic pulses that fried enemy sensors and computers. The War Master had conquered 43 species in his lifetime. He had seen every type of warrior the galaxy had to offer. Strong ones, fast ones, clever ones. None of them had ever truly challenged him. Until now, the human ship danced through his fleet like a knife through flesh. Every shot it fired found its mark. Every missile struck true. His vessels exploded one after another and felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. All ships concentrate fire on that vessel, he roared. Destroy it now. But the human ship was too fast, too unpredictable. It moved in ways that violated every tactical doctrine knew. Council ships always retreated in formation. They always protected their flagships. They always followed predictable patterns. This human captain followed no patterns at all. Mitchell watched 3 destroyers move to flank his ship. They're trying to box us in, Jake said from tactical. Let them think they're succeeding, replied calmly. He had studied the attack records. They relied on superior numbers and brute force. They were not creative. Wait until they're committed, then hit the middle ship with everything we have. The ships closed in, their weapons charging. At the last possible second, gave the order. Now. The Horizon spun on its axis and unleashed its full arsenal at the center destroyer. Rounds tore through the hull. A nuclear missile detonated against the weakened shields, and the ship broke apart in a ball of plasma and debris. Before the other 2 ships could react, the Horizon was gone, using the explosion as cover to slip away. The Council ships are regrouping, Sophie Graham reported from the science station. They're watching us. Saw them on the tactical display. 20 battered Council vessels hanging back, their crews stunned by what they were witnessing. Open a channel to all Council ships. He stood and faced the, This is Captain Mitchell of Earth. I know you've been told humans are weak. I know you think we can't fight. But you're about to learn the difference between species that talk about war and species that know how to wage it. Follow my lead, watch what we do, and maybe you'll survive this. He cut the transmission before anyone could respond. Helm, take us toward that cluster of cruisers. Weapons, prepare the EMP array. Sir, if we get that close, they'll try to board us, Jake warned. I'm counting on it, said. He touched his communicator. Marine Commander Lewis, are your teams ready? Locked and loaded, Captain, came the reply. Let them come. The Horizon dove toward 3 cruisers. They opened fire, but helmsman twisted the ship through the barrage with skill born from endless training simulations. Earth's pilots trained harder than any Council species because they knew their ships were not as advanced. They had to be better to survive. Range optimal, Jake announced, firing EMP. The electromagnetic pulse erupted from the Horizon's arrays. It was a weapon the Council considered primitive and useless. Modern shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not electromagnetic radiation. The shields held, but their electronics did not. All 3 enemy cruisers went dark. Their engines died, their weapons powered down, their life support systems failed. Boarding pods launching from the cruiser on our port side, Jake reported. They launched before the EMP hit. How many? 20 pods, maybe 200 warriors. Smiled grimly. Patch me through to Commander Lewis. Lewis here, sir. You're about to have company, 200 boarders heading your way. There was a pause, then Lewis laughed. Only 200, this will be over quick. The boarding pods clamped onto the Horizon's hull. Cutting torches began slicing through the outer armor. They were confident. They had boarded hundreds of ships. Their warriors were 2 meters tall, heavily armored, and incredibly strong. No species could stand against them in close combat. They had never fought human marines in powered armor. The first warriors poured through the breach they had cut. They found themselves in a cargo bay that appeared empty. Then the lights went out, replaced by emergency red lighting that barely penetrated the darkness. Thermal vision, the squad leader ordered. His warriors switched their optical implants. They saw nothing. The cargo bay was ice cold, no heat signatures anywhere. Then the walls started shooting. The human Marines had positioned themselves inside the bulkheads, behind crates, in access tunnels. They wore powered armor that regulated their heat signatures. Their weapons were designed for ship combat, firing fléchettes that would not penetrate the hull but would shred organic targets. The first wave of died without understanding what killed them. The second wave tried to take cover, but there was nowhere to hide. The humans had every angle covered. They fought with coordination that came from training together for years, knowing exactly where each member of their team would be. They were strong, but strength meant nothing against bullets. They were armored, but their natural armor was no match for armor-piercing rounds. They were fierce, but ferocity was useless when the enemy controlled every aspect of the battlefield. In 5 minutes it was over. 200 warriors lay dead or dying. The human Marines had suffered 0 casualties. Commander Lewis contacted the bridge. "All boarders neutralized, Captain. Want us to return the favor and board their ship." "Negative. Seal the breaches and return to standby positions. We're not done yet." On the bridge, Jake was staring at his tactical display in disbelief. "Sir, Admiral Torres just dropped out of jump space. She brought the entire fleet." Looked at and felt pride surge through him. 30 human warships appeared in perfect formation. These were not exploration vessels like the Horizon. These were purpose-built warships, humanity's secret weapon. Ships designed and constructed during the 50 years since Earth achieved peace, when the government decided that ending war among humans did not mean ending preparation for war. Admiral Helen Torres' face appeared on the screen. She was 60 years old, with gray hair and hard eyes that had seen combat before Earth's unification. "Captain Mitchell, status report. We've engaged the enemy and inflicted significant damage. Council forces are regrouping. They are disorganized but still have superior numbers." "Not for long," Torres said. "All ships weapons free. Let's show these aliens what human warfare looks like." The human fleet attacked like a precision instrument. No wasted shots. No hesitation. Every ship knew its role. They had trained for this scenario 1,000 times, fighting simulations against enemies with superior technology. They tried to respond, but their commanders were confused. The humans used tactics that should not work. They sacrificed position for better firing angles. They exposed their weaker ships to draw fire away from heavy hitters. They coordinated attacks across multiple ships as if they shared a single mind. War Master watched his fleet being systematically destroyed and finally understood. These humans were not like the Council species. They were not soft creatures playing at warfare. They were predators, born and bred for conflict. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships retreat to jump distance." But the humans had anticipated this. They had positioned faster ships to cut off escape routes. They found themselves trapped, surrounded by an enemy that fought with a skill and viciousness they had never encountered. On the Council flagship, High watched the battle in stunned silence. "How?" he whispered. "How are they doing this?" Senator Aura stood beside him, her scales pale with shock. "They're not fighting like Council species. They're fighting like the ancient wars before we found peace. But they're so weak. We assessed them. Their bodies are fragile. Their world is comfortable." "We were wrong," Aura said quietly. "We judged them by our standards, by physical strength and natural armor. We never considered that they might be warriors despite their appearance, not because of it." Commander Lisa watched the battle from Earth's orbital command center. General Price stood beside her, his expression satisfied. "The Council is sending us urgent messages," Lisa reported. "They want to know where the Galactic Council emergency session was held 3 days after the battle of. For the first time in Council history, the meeting took place on a human vessel. Admiral Torres had offered the ECS Unity, Earth's largest diplomatic ship, as neutral ground. Dr. Sophie Graham stood in the observation deck with Dr. Earth's leading evolutionary biologist. Through the transparent walls, they watched alien delegations arrive in shuttles. Each one carried scientists who had requested permission to visit Earth. "They're terrified," Sophie observed. "Look at how they're moving, slow, cautious." Nodded. "They just watched our fleet destroy in a battle that should have been impossible. Now they want to understand how we did it." "Will you tell them the truth?" "All of it. They need to understand what Earth really is." The first delegation to arrive was The scientists wore full environmental suits, despite the ship's atmosphere being perfectly safe for them. Hai accompanied them, his expression humble in a way Sophie had never seen before. Doctor said, inclining his massive head, "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. We have many questions." "Ask them," said simply. A step forward. His suit was reinforced as if he expected to be attacked at any moment. "Your species is physically weak by galactic standards. Your bones are fragile. Your skin offers no protection. Your gravity is less than standard. Yet you fight better than species that evolved under much harsher conditions. We need to understand why." Smiled, "You made several incorrect assumptions. Our gravity is not weak. 0.98 standard units may seem low to you, but that's because the galactic standard was set by species from heavy gravity worlds. Earth's gravity is actually quite high compared to most planets that support life." A scientist made a dismissive sound. "Our gravity is 1.4 standard. We are far stronger than humans." "Yes," agreed, "but strength is not the only factor that matters. Come, let me show you something." He led the group to a medical bay where human volunteers waited. One was a young woman named Amy Collins, an Olympic athlete, gestured to a medical scanner. "Please examine her. Use your equipment. See for yourself." The alien scientists crowded around, their instruments humming. Sophie watched their expressions change from curiosity to confusion to horror. "This is impossible," the biologist whispered. "Her immune system, it's fighting thousands of battles simultaneously." "Millions, actually," corrected. "Every human body contains trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, fungi. Our immune systems wage constant war against them. From the moment we're born until the moment we die, we are literally fighting for survival on a cellular level." "But that would require enormous energy," a scientist said. "How do you function?" "We adapt. Human bodies are incredibly efficient. We have to be. Our world taught us that." Pulled up holographic displays showing Earth. The aliens gasped. Sophie knew what they were seeing. Hurricane systems that could flatten cities, temperature variations that ranged from deadly heat to killing cold, tectonic activity that reshaped continents, an atmosphere filled with oxygen which most species considered a dangerous corrosive gas. "Your planet is a death world," Senator Aura said quietly. She had joined the delegation, though she had been stripped of her military command after the disaster at. "By galactic standards, Earth should not support intelligent life." "But it does," said, "because Earth forced life to become resilient. Every organism on our planet had to adapt or die. We competed not just with each other, but with the environment itself." A young scientist slithered closer to the display. "The biodiversity, it's staggering. Your planet has millions of species, all competing for resources." "Yes, and humans evolved in the middle of it all. We were not the strongest predators. We were not the fastest. We were not the most armored. But we survived because we were the most adaptable." Dr. Sophie Graham took over the presentation. "Let me show you human evolutionary history." She pulled up images of early human ancestors. The aliens leaned in, fascinated and disturbed. "We evolved on the African savanna, one of the most dangerous environments on Earth. We faced predators that could kill us easily. Lions, leopards, hyenas, we were prey." "How did you survive?" they asked. "We learned to work together. We developed tools. We used our intelligence to overcome our physical limitations." Sophie showed images of humans hunting. "We didn't have claws or fangs, so we made spears. We didn't have armor, so we made shields. We didn't have speed, so we learned persistence hunting. We would chase prey for hours, for days, until it collapsed from exhaustion." "Persistence hunting," Aura repeated. "What is that?" Smiled. "Humans have the best endurance of any large predator on Earth. We can run for hours without stopping. Most animals sprint fast but tire quickly. Humans just keep going. We evolved to chase prey until it literally died from exhaustion." The aliens were silent, processing this information. Then the scientist spoke. "But if your world was so harsh, why are you not more physically robust? Why are your bones still fragile?" "Because we evolved intelligence instead of strength," Sophie explained. "Every species makes trade-offs. You invested evolutionary energy into dense bones and thick scales. That makes you strong but slow. Invested in heavy armor but need massive amounts of food to maintain their bodies. Humans invested in complex brains and efficient metabolism." "Show them the adrenaline response," said. Sophie pulled up medical data. When humans face danger, our bodies release chemicals that temporarily increase our strength, speed, and pain tolerance. We call it the adrenaline response. It allows us to perform feats that should be impossible for our size and build. I've heard of this, Ara said. During the battle, human Marines fought with injured limbs, broken bones. They should have been incapacitated. Adrenaline, confirmed. A human with broken ribs can continue fighting if the adrenaline is strong enough. They feel the pain later, but in the moment of crisis, they push through it. A scientist floated closer. This seems extremely dangerous. What if the injury is severe? Then the human dies, Sophie said bluntly. But they die fighting. That's the point. Earth taught us that survival sometimes requires sacrificing everything. Ambassador Daniel Carter entered the medical bay. He had been in meetings with the council leadership all morning. They're ready for the next part, he said to. Nodded and addressed the alien scientists. You wanted to know why humans are better warriors than species you consider superior. The answer is simple. You evolved on worlds that were harsh in one or two ways. Heavy gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures, but Earth was harsh in every way. Our planet threw everything at us. Diseases, predators, climate change, natural disasters, and we survived all of it. More than survived, Daniel added. We thrived. We spread to every corner of our planet. Deserts, jungles, Arctic wastelands, mountains, islands. Humans live everywhere on Earth because we learned to adapt to anything. Spoke for the first time in several minutes. Ambassador Carter, there is something else we need to discuss. Your history, we have been studying it. Daniel's expression became guarded. What about it? You fought each other. For thousands of years, humans waged war against other humans. The casualty figures are staggering. Millions dead in single conflicts. Weapons designed specifically to kill your own species. Yes, Daniel said quietly, we did. Why, if your planet was so dangerous, why did you not unite against common threats? Daniel was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, and his voice carried weight that made even the massive take a step back. Because we were the greatest threat on our planet, not the predators, not the diseases, us. Humans killed more humans than any other force in our history. We fought over resources, over beliefs, over territory. We committed atrocities that would horrify you. We built weapons that could destroy our entire world. And yet you stopped, Ara said. 50 years ago you achieved global peace. We did because we finally looked up and saw the stars. We realized we were not alone. And we decided that if we were going to meet other species, we wanted to meet them as a unified people, not as warring tribes. Sophie pulled up more data. But we never forgot the lessons we learned. Every human alive today is descended from survivors, from people who endured wars, plagues, famines, and disasters. Our genetics carry those survival traits. Our cultures remember those lessons. We may have chosen peace, but we never forgot how to fight. The scientist touched his scanner again, looking at Amy's medical readings. Your species should not exist. Your planet should have killed you. Your wars should have destroyed you. Yet here you are, stronger than species that evolved under easier conditions. That's the paradox of Earth, said. Hardship breeds strength. Challenge breeds innovation. We are what we are because our world gave us no choice but to become survivors. Bowed his head. We owe you an apology. When we judged your species as weak, we made a grave error. We looked only at physical strength. We did not consider the strength of will, the strength of adaptation, the strength that comes from overcoming impossible odds. Daniel accepted the apology with a nod. The Council needs to reconsider how it evaluates species. Physical 6 months had changed the galaxy more than the previous 1,000 years. Captain Mitchell stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the ECS Defender, and watched the combined fleet assemble. Human ships flew alongside dreadnoughts, cruisers, and vessels from a dozen other Council species. Fleet reports ready, sir, Lieutenant Jake said. He had been promoted to commander and now served as executive officer. All ships are in position. Studied the tactical display. 300 vessels in perfect formation. Half of them were human. The rest belonged to Council species who had learned to fight the human way. Send the signal. We jump in 5 minutes. This would be the final assault on the home system. After 6 months of brutal warfare, the empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was on the brink of collapse. The Council forces, trained and led by human officers, had pushed them back system by system. But this last battle would be the hardest. They had retreated to there, and they would defend it with everything they had left. Admiral Helen Torres appeared on the communication screen. Captain Mitchell, you will lead the first wave. Your task force will neutralize the orbital defenses. The second wave will secure space superiority. The third wave will prepare for ground operations if necessary. Understood, Admiral. Torres smiled. You've done well. 6 months ago, the Council thought we were weak. Now they follow our lead into battle. That's quite an accomplishment. We just showed them what they forgot, ma'am, how to fight to win. The fleet jumped, space twisted and reformed, and they emerged at the edge of the home system. Saw immediately that the enemy had been busy. Hundreds of defense platforms ringed the planet. Thousands of automated weapons satellites filled the space between. They're hailing us, the communications officer reported. Put it through. War Master appeared on the screen. He looked older than the last time I'd seen him, his armor indented. Human Captain, you have defeated my empire, destroyed my fleets, killed millions of my warriors. I acknowledge your superiority in warfare. Then surrender, said. There's no reason for more death. We do not surrender. We fight until we die. That's your choice, but I'm offering you another option. Lay down your weapons, accept council authority. Your people will be judged fairly. Laughed, though there was no humor in it. Fairly? We have conquered 43 species. We have enslaved billions. We have destroyed entire civilizations. There is no fairness that would not end in our execution. Was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, and his words were heard not just by, but broadcast to every ship in the system. You're right. You have committed terrible crimes, but humanity learned something important in our own history. We learned that everyone deserves a chance at redemption. Redemption, spat the word, you would spare us. If you surrender, if you release your prisoners, if you agree to disarmament and council oversight, then yes, we would spare you, because killing you all would make us no better than you. In the Galactic Council chamber, now rebuilt and relocated to a neutral station, Ambassador Daniel Carter watched the transmission with the full council. High stood beside him, his massive frame tense with anticipation. This is unprecedented, murmured. They have shown no mercy, they deserve none in return. That's the difference between justice and revenge, Daniel said quietly. Humanity has done terrible things in our past. We've committed our own atrocities. We know what it means to be judged by our worst moments. We also know what it means to be given a second chance. Senator Ara approached them. She wore a human military uniform now, having requested assignment to Earth's training program. If they refuse the offer. Then we fight, Daniel said. But we make the offer first, because that's what separates civilization from barbarism. On the Defender's bridge, waited for response. He could see the War Master struggling with the decision. Pride fought against pragmatism. Honor wrestled with survival. Finally spoke, you would truly spare my people, after everything we have done. I would, but there will be consequences. Your empire is finished. Your military will be dismantled. Your leaders will face trial. Your people will work to repair the damage you've caused. It won't be easy. It won't be pleasant, but you will live. And if I refuse? His expression hardened. Then we destroy every ship in this system. We reduce your orbital defenses to rubble. And we do it in less than an hour because that's how much humanity has taught the Council about modern warfare. You will die, War Master, all of you. The choice is yours. The channel went silent. Watched the tactical display as ships maneuvered, their weapons charging. For a moment he thought they would choose death over surrender. Then one by one the weapons powered down. Defense platforms went dark. The massive orbital fortresses lowered their shields. We surrender, said, and his voice carried the weight of 1,000 defeats. I only ask one thing, human captain. Tell me how you did it. How did a species we thought weak destroy an empire that conquered the galaxy? Consider the question. We were never weak, War Master. You mistook peace for weakness. You thought our soft bodies meant soft spirits. You assumed that because we chose diplomacy, we had forgotten how to fight, but humanity never forgets. We just choose when to use what we know. The Council made the same mistake, said bitterly. They grew soft in their peace. They forgot that predators still exist in the universe. They're learning, we're teaching them, not how to be killers, but how to be warriors. There's a difference. The surrender took 3 days to complete. Ships were boarded and secured. Weapons were confiscated. Prisoners of war from dozens of species were freed and returned to there. The empire that had terrorized the galaxy was no more. General Price arrived from Earth to oversee the occupation. He met within the Defenders' conference room, along with Admiral Torres and Commander Lisa. "The Council wants to make you a fleet commander," Price said to, "full rank, permanent assignment." "What about Admiral Torres?" "I'll be heading the new Joint Military Academy," Torres said. "We're going to train the next generation of Council officers in modern warfare. Someone needs to make sure they don't forget these lessons." Lisa spread out reports on the table. "The political situation is complex. Earth has more influence now than any other single species. The Council is rewriting its charter. They want human input on everything from defense policy to membership criteria." "How is Ambassador Carter handling it?" asked. "Carefully," Lisa said with a smile. "He's pushing for reforms but trying not to make it look like Earth is taking over. It's a delicate balance." Price nodded. "We need to be careful. We proved we're strong. Now we need to prove we're wise, that we won't use our strength to dominate others." 3 months later, the reformed Galactic Union held its first assembly. The council chamber had been redesigned. Instead of the hierarchical arrangement of before, where powerful species sat in elevated positions, all representatives now sat as equals in a circular arrangement. Daniel Carter took his seat as Earth's permanent representative. He wore a simple suit, not the elaborate robes that other ambassadors favored. Beside him sat representatives from species both old and new. They even had an observer, though they would not have voting rights for decades. High, now serving as Speaker of the Assembly rather than ruler, called the session to order. "We gather today to formally establish the Galactic Union Charter. Thanks to humanity's intervention, we survived the threat. But more importantly, we learned lessons that will shape our future." He gestured to Daniel. "Ambassador Carter has been asked to address the Assembly. The floor is yours." Daniel stood and looked around the chamber. Every eye watched him, some with gratitude, some with respect, some with lingering fear. 6 months ago, this council judged humanity as weak and unworthy of membership. You were not wrong to be cautious. You were wrong to judge by appearance rather than capability. He paused, letting his words sink in. "Earth comes from a harsh world. We evolved to survive impossible conditions. We fought terrible wars against each other. We made mistakes that nearly destroyed us. But we learned. We grew. We chose to reach for the stars not as conquerors, but as explorers. When they attacked, you needed warriors. Earth provided them. We showed you that strength comes in many forms: physical power, technological advancement, strategic thinking, but also mercy, restraint, the wisdom to know when to fight and when to show compassion." Daniel walked to the center of the chamber. The old council based membership on physical superiority, size, strength, natural armor. Those things matter in some contexts, but they are not the measure of a species' worth. The new charter must recognize that diversity makes us stronger, that every species has something unique to offer. Senator Ara stood from her seat. "Ambassador Carter speaks truth. My people thought ourselves the finest warriors in the galaxy. We were wrong. Humans taught us that true warriors train constantly, adapt endlessly, and fight only when necessary. We were strong, but we had forgotten how to be deadly." Other representatives stood and spoke. They admitted their armor made them overconfident. They acknowledged their energy manipulation powers blinded them to other forms of warfare. Species after species confessed that peace had made them soft. But they also spoke of hope. The human training programs had shown them how to defend themselves. The joint military exercises had built bonds between former rivals. The shared struggle against the had created friendships that crossed species barriers. When Daniel sat down, the Assembly voted unanimously to adopt the new charter. It recognized Earth as a founding member of the Galactic Union, with full rights and responsibilities. But more importantly, it changed how the Union evaluated new members. Physical strength no longer mattered. Neither did technological advancement or natural abilities. Instead, the charter asked 3 questions. Does the species value cooperation? Do they show wisdom in using their capabilities? Are they willing to defend not just themselves, but all members of the Union? That night, Daniel stood in the observation deck of the council station and looked at the stars. Mitchell found him there, having come for the ceremony that would officially promote him to fleet commander. "Quite a change from 6 months ago," said. "Yes, the council that laughed at us now follows our lead. The species that called us weak now ask for our protection." "Does it bother you?" Daniel thought about it. Sometimes, we didn't want power, we just wanted respect, but power came with it. What will Earth do with that power? Use it carefully, share it widely, and never forget that we were once the ones being judged unfairly. Daniel turned to face. Your fleet will be the Union's primary defense force. That's enormous responsibility. I know, but I have good teachers. Admiral Torres taught me how to fight. You taught me why we fight. For protection, not conquest. For justice, not revenge. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the alien ships pass by the station. Then Daniel smiled. You know what the best part is? In a generation, no one will remember that humans were ever considered weak. They'll just know us as the species that saved the galaxy and then taught everyone else how to save themselves. That's a legacy worth having, agreed. Far away on Earth, Dr. Sophie Graham and Doctor were giving another presentation to alien scientists. This time, the aliens asked not about human weaknesses, but about human strengths. How they adapted, how they innovated, how they turned hardship into advantage. And in the rebuilt council chamber, a young observer named Orr, son of the former war master, listened as Ambassador Carter explained that redemption was possible for anyone willing to earn it. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Strength without wisdom was tyranny. Peace without preparedness was vulnerability. But strength combined with wisdom, peace backed by readiness to defend it, that was the path to a better future. Humanity had been dismissed as weak. They proved themselves strong. But more importantly, they proved that true power meant lifting others up, not pushing them down. And that lesson would echo through the stars for generations to come. Power is not the only measure of capability. We are learning that lesson, said, the hard way. E-ships came from how we developed these weapons, why we hid our capabilities. Tell them the truth, Price said. Tell them that when you call a species weak and dismiss them, you give them a reason to prove you wrong. Tell them that humanity learned long ago never to reveal all our cards. Lisa smiled and began composing the message. Around Earth, defense platforms armed with weapons the Council had never imagined continued their silent watch. Stealth ships invisible to Council sensors patrolled the system's edge. And deep beneath the lunar surface, facilities designed to build warships at a rate that would terrify the Council continued their work. Humanity had been preparing for this day since they first learned they were not alone in the universe. They had hoped for peace. They had reached out in friendship, but they had never stopped preparing for war. Because they knew something the Council had forgotten. Peace was not the absence of strength. Peace was what happened when you were strong enough that no one dared attack you. The Council ships stopped their retreat. They watched in shock as one small human vessel tore into the fleet with devastating precision. Direct hit on their flagship, Jake shouted. Their shields are down, they're venting atmosphere. Hit them again, ordered. Show them what happens when they mess with Earth. The shuttle accelerated toward the jump point that would take them home. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued its business, completely unaware that they had just made a critical mistake. They had judged humanity by appearance rather than capability. They had measured strength in muscles and armor rather than adaptability and determination. It was a mistake that would cost them dearly when the real test came.